This is Alex Mahoney with Coda Financial Coaching, your source for all things budgeting, saving, investing, and ensuring your financial future. And today, let's talk about managed funds versus index funds. Now, this is something I've touched on before in the context of Dave Ramsey's advisors versus just picking a total stock market fund or an S&P 500 fund. And I really want to get more into this and dig deeper into this subject because a lot of people with financial advisors are fooled that they are getting a better deal by having a financial advisor, at least when it comes to either making tactical choices in investing or in retirement, they're saving for retirement and investing for retirement. And the fact is, there are financial advisors out there who probably know everything about all of the major stocks. They know everything and all the statistics around the major classes. In other words, they're going to know a lot more about stocks than I do, and certainly the average person who is just trying to save for retirement, which makes it all the more disturbing to me that they're trying to get you a lot of times, no, not all the time, into a fund that has a 1% expense ratio for its assets under management and really isn't beating the greater total stock market or the S&P 500 or any of the other indices that cover the broader market. And really, you have to wonder why they're doing this and they're able to do this year after year. And the real reason is because of that expertise. And people just assume that they are getting a better deal investing in a managed fund with an advisor who's allocating their money year after year. Well, let's break down the facts a little bit. First of all, over the last 20 years, about 95% of managed funds have underperformed the S&P 500 over that same period. Just let that sink in, that 95% of managed funds, 95% have underperformed. And really, that doesn't mean that they're not smart or that they don't know what they're doing. It's just we have this market that's so efficient. In other words, if a stock is doing well, let's say an advisor picks a stock in a managed fund and they pick it before everybody else does and it starts doing really well, well, of course, that stock price is transparent. How that company is doing is disclosed to the broader public. Other people are going to pile in, raise the price of that stock, lower the yield that it gets you, and what was before a winner pick for them now is not. So in other words, they need to pick that one stock that nobody else knows about year after year after year in order to have a successful fund that beats the S&P 500 or beats the broader market year after year. And nobody here, that I know of is a fortune teller, and that's pretty much what you have to be. So it doesn't mean that they're not smart or they're, trying to, play a game with you. It just means that it's almost literally impossible year in and year out to beat the stock market. So, that's the first thing. The second thing is they have to make money too. This is a living for them, right? So they're charging a 1% fee typically. That's industry standard for assets under management for a financial advisor or management company that is actively investing for you. And that 1%, that's paying their salaries, those are the transaction costs, that's to keep the lights on, etc. Well, to my point that I just made about beating the market, it's hard to beat the market at all. Beating it by 1%, that may not sound like a lot, but beating the market by a full percent year after year is massive. And if you're actually able to do that, the compounding 1% beating the market year after year, that translates over a lifetime to beating the market by, depending on the size of your portfolio, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to even millions of dollars over a lifetime. So in other words, in order to make up for those assets under management fee, they have to consistently beat that market by 1%. So that's all to say that I think the first test of whether you have a good financial advisor is whether they're upfront about this. Now, that's not to say that you should never have a financial advisor. My personal opinion, that you don't need one unless you are a very, very sophisticated investor and you see it almost more as a, I don't want to call it a hobby, but you see it as something that you love to do and actively manage and feel in control of your destiny. So, unless you are that kind of sophisticated investor looking for somebody to craft a strategy that you're happy with, most people are not going to need it. But there is a use case for financial advisors. There is a case, in my opinion, if you want to have somebody sophisticated that you check in with maybe once every few years, if you're a little bit more conservative, once a year, just to make sure you're on track and explain to you what your investments are doing and why they're doing that way in the broader context of the economy, I think that is a good use case. And maybe you work out an arrangement where you pay the advisor for that advice to basically for them in an expert way to break down why your portfolio is doing the way it's doing. But if you have an advisor that is trying to constantly change your portfolio year after year, or tell you that they have the greatest and latest strategy, or they have some sort of option strategy that's going to get you a little more money on top of what you're earning, but in reality, they're putting your portfolio at risk, and the risk that something really bad happens in the market, you probably want to stay away from that guy. And you probably want to talk to somebody who is just willing to, like I said, advise you on what your portfolio is doing, why it's doing, and make sure that you're comfortable with that strategy. Now, just to break down where financial coaches come in this picture here, we are not certified financial planners. We don't know everything about this stock or the stock market, or have a level of expertise where we'd be able to break down all the technical details of the market. But what we do know are the basic statistics on how individual funds have done versus how a total stock market index fund has done, or an S&P 500. And we're also able to hold you accountable to staying with a strategy that you pick, that you're comfortable with, and not having you panic and pull all of your money out and stick to your dollar cost average saving plan, stick to your budget. We are really accountability partners rather than technical experts. And usually that's really all you need if you want to make sure that you're a millionaire at retirement. So anyway, just wanted to break down a little bit and go a little bit deeper into depth about why going the managed fund route is dangerous and why you should be careful, and you should do a little bit more research on your own as to how long a managed fund has been in service and what it's done versus the greater market in not only the short and medium term, but also over the long term. Because of course, if you're working with a financial coach, it means you have a long-term horizon. You're not just trying to make a quick buck in the market or beat the market year after year and keep on switching around to funds, chasing that beating of the market year after year. But anyway, hope you're all doing well. Drop any comments that you have around this video, any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer them. And best of luck in your financial freedom journey, and I will talk to you soon.